Hey guys, what's up? What's up? So you'll notice our Find Your Light Friday reading is in a little bit of a new format. So instead of doing live, I'm going to be putting them up on the YouTube channel every single Friday moving forward, just to make it easier for everybody. So if you're new to our Find Your Light Friday readings, basically these are all about what we can do to focus on our shadow and give it the attention that it needs, right? And so that's really all what this is about, is taking a look at these different parts of ourselves so that we can better understand them, so that we can heal these things, so we can address these things and really make a point of focusing on this, because the more that we avoid it, the less we manifest what it is that we want in our lives, right? And the more we continue to find ourselves in these cycles that we don't really want to be in anymore. So, having said that, I really, 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 really love this week's card, which is the Seven of Wands. So, the Seven of Wands is asking you to take a look at where exactly you take things personally. So it's a human thing. We all take things very personally. But here's the thing. Nothing is actually really personal at all. Nothing. And that's something to remember. And some of us, more often than others, with certain people in our lives, take things very personally. Whether it's your boss, your partner, your family, whatever. And even though when sometimes people say things to us, right, that are very direct and we're just kind of like, what the fuck? Or even sort of passive aggressively say things to us that we're like, what? And what this card is asking you to do is really examine how often that happens for you in your life. How often do you take things personally? How often do you find yourself in the original Rider-Waite deck? The Seven of Wands is a guy and he's standing up on this hill and like he's fighting off all these people, right? So it's sort of like standing, it's one thing to stand up for yourself, right? And that is oftentimes something that we do. However, it's a completely different thing to always be taking things personally. And we all know someone who does this. We all often do this. And part of that is because our subconscious mind, one of its prime directives is to take things personally. However, that doesn't serve us. It really doesn't. And the thing is that nothing is personal, right? So even when someone is saying something to you, someone is insulting you or giving you constructive criticism or feedback or whatever the case may be, and they are directing it to you, it still isn't personal. It's not. All it is that person responding to their filters, responding to what is going on within them. So it still has absolutely nothing to do with you, even if they're directing this communication to you. It still has absolutely nothing to do with you. So this card is really asking you, how often do you do this? How often do you take things personally? How often do you make things personal? Because really, that's all that there is. The only meaning to anything is the meaning that we place on it. And for some of us, that's really difficult to deal with. For some of us, we're just like, what are you saying? There's no meaning to life at all. And that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, what if everything was neutral? What if every single thing, every act, everything was absolutely neutral, and the only meaning that anything ever had was the meaning that we put on it? And that's it. What does that mean? Does that mean then that you can now change the meaning of something that maybe you had sort of negative connotations around before? I don't know. So think about that. How often do you take things personal or make things personal? How often do you personalize your actions, your thoughts, your emotions, and make those things your identity? How often do you personalize or take personally other people's actions, emotions, words, whatever, right? So think about that. And this is kind of all inclusive. So from now until next week, this is something to focus on, to really examine how much you are taking personally and asking yourself, do I need to take this personally? Is this really personal to me? Do I need to make this something personal? Because this is part of how we get into this victim mentality when we feel like we're constantly like at odds with other people. We hang on to the idea that no one understands us, the idea that we're the victim, the idea that everything and everyone is out to get us. And so how can you take that and flip that script and say, well, maybe if I stop personalizing these things and stop taking these things so personally, maybe then I wouldn't even care. Maybe it wouldn't even matter to me what other people say at that point. In that realization of, well, but is it personal to me? No, it isn't. Can I choose to make it personal? Of course I can. Can I choose to not make it personal? I can do that too. So really get into, especially if this is something that you find yourself doing often, is how can you moving forward be conscious and aware of when this is happening, right? That's all our shadows really want, is for our understanding, our acknowledgement, and then we begin to heal them, right? Because these are just things that we're not shining a light on. And so when we shine the light on them, then we can say, oh, this is not as bad as I thought it was. And so this isn't a judgment. This isn't a negative thing. This card isn't calling you out. It's not like that. It's just about, how often do I do this? Where in my life does this happen? Because we all do this, and sometimes we're not even consciously aware of it. Our subconscious mind runs the show almost 100% of the time, so we're always running on autopilot. And so it's really just up to us to be conscious when the time calls for that, and to be like, oh, you know what, I actually do, especially with my boss, for example. Especially with my boss, I really take things that he or she does really personally. And maybe my boss isn't actually picking on me like I feel like. Maybe my boss gives me extra work or gives me extra, responsibilities, not because they're trying to pick on me, but because they feel like I'm responsible. They feel like I am capable to do these things. And I can utilize this experience to get a raise, get a promotion, because I'm doing all this extra work. I'm taking on all this extra responsibility. And so that should yield me something as well, right? And so this is just an opportunity to reframe. And so we can really look at those things, especially that we've been taking personally. And so this is what I want you to be aware of for the next week, is to really notice when you start to get that feeling of like taking something very personal, especially on a negative level, right? And ask yourself, do I really need to take this personally? Do I need to make it mean something about me? Or can I choose to make it mean nothing? Can I choose to make it mean something else? Right? So like I said, this is a great opportunity for reframing as well, in looking at all of the things that we do take personally. And we ask ourselves, okay, so if I'm taking this personally right now and I'm feeling really bad about what this person is saying or doing or whatever, how can I use this to help me? How can I use this for good, right? Because really, that's all we can do, is utilize these things that feel really negative for our benefit. We can see, oh, that happened because I needed to learn to set boundaries, because I needed to recognize that I was in, a weird, funky mindset about whatever. So the things that occur in our lives are not a test in the way that we feel like the universe is like, you failed that. It's not about that. Excuse me. It's really about, how can I use this? And the universe isn't testing you. It's in that way. It's just asking you, like, okay, I'm going to hand you this experience, and you can learn the lesson, take away what you're supposed to take away from it, or you cannot do that. And I'm just going to keep giving you this lesson over and over and over until you do realize it. And it's not in a bad way. It's not punishment, but I fully believe that we each individually have a curriculum that we are supposed to learn. We have this this certain set of lessons, a certain set of things that we are supposed to learn as individuals in our lifetimes. And if we get it the very first time it shows up, amazing. But if we don't, the universe, God, whatever, is just like, oh, you didn't get that the first time, and that's cool. Like, you just need to learn this. And so I'm going to keep giving you the same lesson in different ways so that you can learn it. And that is all that it is. And so, especially when you find yourself taking something very personal that has come up multiple times over, right? Take a look at that. So let's just say that, like, someone's on your case because you're never on time, or because you were, I don't know, whatever. Whatever it is that you do, or don't do, or, whatever it is that people, you find that people are always on you about, right? So take those examples, right? And ask yourself, okay, well, do I need to take this personally? Do I need to take this in a negative way? Or can I see it as an opportunity to really ask myself, is this something that I do? Is this something that needs work? Is this something I need to look at? What can I do with this? How can I use this to help me? So there's nothing that happens in our lives that is inherently negative that isn't supposed to teach us something. Every single thing that we experience is meant to teach us something, even if it's like the very smallest lesson, even if it's the very smallest tool that we could possibly use. There is something we can take away from every single thing that occurs in our lives. So just remember, this week especially, because I know we're coming into some interesting transits, but remember, I don't need to take this personally. How can I see this differently? How can I see this as an opportunity to grow? How can I see this as something beneficial to me? Okay? So reframe, understand that it's not really personal, right? Everything is just a reflection. Everything that we say to other people is solely a reflection of what's going on in our internal landscape. Same thing goes for everybody else. We're all just responding and reacting to what's going on within us. So that is why nothing is personal. So even when someone is saying something directly to you or about you, it still isn't personal, because it's just that person's filter. It's just that person's internal experience that is causing that reaction. Just like when you react or respond to something, It has nothing to do with the external force or the external whatever. It's your internal experience that you are acting out, right? That's all it ever is. So when we look at it from that perspective of, oh, I can choose to react to this and get mad about it, or I can choose to respond to this and realize that, no, I don't have to take this personally. And I can actually use it if I choose to my benefit. I don't really, I don't have to react to this. I can respond to it and choose to say nothing or choose to say thank you for the feedback, right? So that is something to work on for the next week. This one is a good one because I know that we all have a tendency to do this. This is something I work on all the time, like I'm not exempt from this because I've been doing this work. Like, this is something that we're humans, we are hardwired to take things personally because that's just a prime directive of our subconscious mind. That's all it is. Because our subconscious is constantly gathering data. So when we can just take that step back and observe and respond rather than react, then we're more in control of our emotions. Then we're more in control of our actions. Then we're more in control of our thoughts and ourselves. And that's really the only thing that matters. We can't control what other people do. All we really have control over is ourselves. So I hope this helps. If you would like your own shadow work reading, you can click the link below and book in. Readings are only done on Fridays. So if you order on a Monday, I will have it to you by Friday. Otherwise, I will see you next week. I love you guys. Bye.